Hello, this is Social Studies Module 2, Lesson 1. We made it to Module 2 of Social Studies. Last module, in Module 1, we learned about the different regions. We learned about the woodlands, the Great Plains, the Southwest, and the Pacific Northwest regions. And we learned about all of the Native American tribes that were in those regions. And now that we've learned about the Native Americans, and though they were the first ones on to America, and they were hunters and gatherers, and lived in different climate and had different clothes and resources and things, we're now going to be learning about people that came across the Atlantic Ocean to also live in America. And so the Native Americans were already there. They were the first people in America, and now we're going to learn about more people who try and discover America and want to learn and live in America. So, have you ever learned much about Vikings? When you think of Vikings, what do you think about? What do you know about them? My mind, well, to be honest, it goes to the movie How to Train Your Dragon with the Vikings in that movie, and I love that movie. I know a lot of you guys have seen it too. So here's a picture of maybe something different comes to your mind, but often we have a picture that comes to our mind like this. People with big beards and metal helmets and all those sorts of swords and shields and things. In this lesson, you get to learn more about the Vikings and how the Vikings were some of the first people to come across the Atlantic and find themselves in America. Whether that was on purpose or accidentally, you'll find out. So what are we going to learn in this lesson? This lesson, I will be able to define terms related to exploration. So you'll learn different vocabulary terms that are important throughout this lesson. Explain the reasons for European exploration. Why did the Vikings and other groups that you'll find out of in the lesson, why did those groups even come to America? What were they wanting to find in America? Define terms related to European exploration technology. What kind of technology did they use to get to America? Nowadays, we think of technology as in computers, tablets, phones, but their kind of technology was different resources and tools that they used, more like ships and astrolabes and compasses. That was the kind of technology they used to help them and guide them to get to America. So we're going to learn about some of those tools in the lesson. And the last one says, describe technological developments related to European exploration. So they started out with ships that were okay, but ships that as they learned and they grew, they got better at building ships, and they also got better at different navigational resources that they could use. So what's the assignment? What is my assignment? There is going to be, at the end of the lesson, it says to take a quiz. You're not going to take a quiz. You're going to do this exploration across the Atlantic assignment. We'll come back and look at that. So I'm going to go ahead and go into Buzz so we can look at the lesson a little bit. So we're here in Module 2, Lesson 1, Exploration Across the Atlantic. Exploring along the Atlantic. Here are some pictures of a Viking village along the Atlantic coast. We are introduced here to our good friend who takes us through the lesson. Christopher Columbus, lots of you guys have heard of him. He is often recognized as the explorer who discovered North America. However, historians have found that hundreds of years before Columbus, other fearless explorers made the journey across the North Atlantic. Who were they, and how did they get here? Let's explore some people who discovered North America with our friend Ava. So what will we learn in this lesson? There are objectives we just talked about. Viking exploration. So we know that Christopher Columbus came over to America in 1492. But he is not one of the first ones. Some people say he was, and maybe you've heard that he was, but the Vikings came before Christopher Columbus came to America, and they bumped into America on accident. So the Vikings came from all across northern Europe. They came from Denmark, Norway, and Sweden, and they came in several years before Christopher Columbus had come. And they sailed across the Mediterranean Sea and over through the Atlantic Ocean through to America. When many people think of Vikings, they think of an image somewhat like this, like another image I showed you too. So where did the Vikings explore? You can click on that and you can view this map of all of their trails, their routes to get over here. So over here we have Europe, we have Norway, Sweden, Denmark. We cross through Iceland and Greenland to get over here to America. So here's the Atlantic Ocean. They crossed from Europe over to America and passed through the Atlantic Ocean to get there. So there's lots of different routes that they took to get over to America. Down here it talks about specifics. It talks about clothing that Vikings wore, homes, ships, and trade. And I'm going to bring up the interactive notebook. As I was going through this lesson, I wrote my lesson title, my objectives, and then I started writing notes about the Vikings. And I wrote about their clothing and their homes and their ships and their trades, and I took notes so that I could use them on my assignment and also on my assessment, but not only to use them in future things to help my learning. So I encourage you to use an interactive notebook. Okay, so here's all of those details. So if you click on one of those, you'll be able to learn a little bit more about the Viking clothing. I'll let you guys go through that. Discovery in the Atlantic. So here talks about a few of the specific Viking voyagers. So you can come through here and read or listen to, because the cool thing about this is it has the listen to button. You can read or listen to about these 3 specific Viking explorers. Why did Vikings sail across the Atlantic? Viking ships were built for sailing on the ocean, but Vikings didn't have the same tools for navigation that we did. They got blown off course, and bam, they found America. And you can read more about that. We'll go to the next page. Mission exploration. Oops. So here we learned about some of their navigational tools. We learned about their ships. We learned about more of their routes. And there's an activity that you guys can do. In this activity, we learn about different explorers. This is pretty important because this is going to be in your assignment. So we learned about Vikings. Some of the other people that started to come over to America were the French. And if you click on the card, you can view the back and you can look at specific explorers that came over from France. There's also the Dutch that started to come over. And again, click on that card. You can learn more about the Dutch. And lastly, we have the Swedish. So we have Vikings who started coming over. We had the French, we had the Dutch, and we had the Swedish. Those are 4 different groups that started to come over. The Vikings were before Christopher Columbus. The French and the Dutch and the Sweden were around or shortly after the time that Christopher Columbus came over. So these ones were more the 15th to the 17th century that they started coming over after the Vikings had already found America. So this talks about more navigational tools, and I'll let you guys read through that. What did I learn? Our lesson summary. And finally, we get to our final page that says, what is my assignment? Here it says that your assignment is to take the quiz. You will not be taking a quiz. You will be completing this lesson 3 assignment. So make a copy as always. And here's the copy of your slideshow. So it's your exploration across the Atlantic slideshow. So again, our instruction says make sure to use complete sentences in order to get full credit. You are welcome to look back at the lesson or use your interactive notebook to answer the questions. So, complete sentences, please. So we have, what is something you learned about the Viking ships from this lesson? If you don't remember, you're welcome to go back to the lesson. Name one navigational tool used by the 15th through 17th century European explorers, which were the French, the Dutch, and the Swedish. How was that navigational tool used? You can read that in the lesson as well. How did the navigational technology help later European explorers? Again, technology, we think of computer, iPhone, tablet, whatever that kind of technology. That wasn't the technology they had. They had technology that guided their ships, and those were the navigational tools that it talks about in the lesson. So how did those things advance to help the European explorers travel better and faster across the waters? Then your last piece is this chart. It says, name the 4 groups of explorers discussed in the lesson. List their reasons for exploring America. Hopefully you're watching this video. We have the Vikings that we learned about, the French, the Dutch, and the Swedish. Those are the 4 groups that we learned about that came across to America. And you can go back and look at the lesson or use what you remember to give the reasons for why they came to America. So that will be your assignment that you'll complete after you go through the lesson. So that's the lesson and the assignment. I think it's an awesome lesson. It's fun to learn about the Vikings and the people that came over to America. And so I hope that you enjoy the lesson and that you enjoy the assignment, and I look forward to seeing what you guys put for your answers.